Hello, hello. Welcome, guys. Welcome in. Happy Monday. Hope y'all doing good today. Oh my gosh. Hey, hello, Chaos Chameleon. Thank you for submitting your artwork to the challenge. I actually am featuring you today, so welcome in. Welcome, guys. Yeah, today is part 2 of our digital painting series of portraits, and you guys have voted for Jackie Chan. It was really difficult to choose these male faces that I was thinking a lot about these, and our community members have actually also helped us with recommendations. But I wanted to choose, people, different ages, different ethnicities, and actually Jackie Chan and Whoopi Goldberg, who I painted last Monday, are both older people, and I think a lot of you wanted to paint people who are slightly older, and I think Jackie Chan is in his 70s. I'm always going to remember him in Rush Hour, but, and Rush Hour 4 is coming out, more like Rush Hour Grandpas, but, people love Jackie Chan, and I've been a Jackie Chan fan for a long time, so thank you for voting. If you guys want to vote on our polls, you can just hit the subscribe button and you'll be able to tell us what you want to see us do next. Yeah, I thought Pedro would have won too. I wanted Ryan Gosling to win because I wanted to draw Ken. I wanted to draw him in Barbie with like bleach blonde hair and a pink background, but you guys chose Jackie. So before we get started, though, I want to just let everybody know that our monthly challenge is a digital deep dive. And if you haven't submitted to our art challenge, you can join our Discord and submit your artwork for a chance to be featured on stream. This month, we thought it would be a good idea to challenge you to go a little bit deeper in your digital art journey, whether that's rendering, whether that's just picking up a stylus for the first time, whatever you need to really go just a little bit deeper. And we usually design our streams around this topic so that you can draw along with us and submit something for the monthly art challenge. So without further ado, I do want to recognize some wonderful community members and their monthly submissions. So this is a submission by Thursday, and I just want to read what you said here in the submissions because it was really interesting. I think that you were working on this while we announced the challenge. And you were trying out some different techniques that you haven't tried out before. And that's the whole idea of the challenge. You said you did this as a birthday gift and you went super out of your comfort zone with lighting effects, multiple different layer modes, blending values, and made this. And there were 39 layers in total, which, isn't a lot compared to a lot of digital artists, but yeah, so you don't even usually do flat colors, let alone rendering of this scale. So congrats on the piece. It's a very interesting piece. I can see that there's text here in the left corner, and you're using a limited palette. It looks very cool. And it's always good to experiment with stuff. So kudos to you to trying out something different. 39 layers. Let me know in the chat, guys, how many layers do you usually use for your digital art? Because I don't usually use a lot. If I have a lot of layers, it's mostly like references and stuff. But yeah, like really, really cool textures. And great job, Thursday. Thank you for submitting. Our next community member, I think this artist is in the chat, Chaos Chameleon. It's really cool to see your I think this is your lionfish character that you were telling me about. Correct me if I'm wrong, but this is really cool. nicely done. I recognize it. I saw it. I was like, oh, cool. It's kind of like a mummy fish. And then I recognized the colors and I thought, oh, wow. Is that the lionfish you were talking about on stream? Very cool character. And I just, I want to encourage you guys to submit stuff, even if it's not perfect. Even, you said you realized there were some mistakes. You tried to fix them, but you think you made the shading much worse, but you still shared it. And that is the best part, is that, you're not afraid to share your artwork, because sharing is how we get better. And if our artwork is not seen, then what is the point of making them, right? So this is really cool. I can't wait to see what else you do with it. And if you need help with blending modes, or if you need help shading it, just you can let me know later on the Discord, and I'd be happy to help. So nice job, Chaos Chameleon. Thank you for sharing your art. You said the most layers you've ever done is 3, maybe 4 for reference. That's good. Keep your layers simple. Simple is always better. You don't want to spend a lot of your time getting lost in trying to find which layer is which, right? Cool. So next community member is Fallen Tesla. This is such a cool piece. It's so intricate, and I love how the middle of this octopus character, or this Triton character that you made, is fairly simple and dark, and then all of the details are concentrated at the bottom and at the top. Super cool looking. When I looked at this, it made me wonder, do bells make a sound underwater? Or are they just because they're cool looking? Because they're very cool looking. Yeah. Hey, Elise, welcome in. Yeah, you definitely have your animal anatomy down. This looks super, super cool. And I think it would look even cooler if your background gave it some more contrast, so we can really appreciate all of that beautiful, all those beautiful shapes and those organic shapes, as well as the negative space around it. So thank you for submitting. This is super, super cool. What did you say about this? You said this is a different art style based off a game called Salt and Sanctuary. I've never played that game, but if you guys are in the chat, you've played it, let me know. It's wildly different than what you normally do. That's awesome. Usually you're super picky about mistakes and every detail, but this forced me to just embrace them. Well, I don't really see any mistakes here, but we are all our own worst critics. So thank you for sharing this, regardless of the mistakes you made, so that we can all appreciate it together. Beautiful, beautiful work. Nicely done. All right. If you want to submit your artwork, we still have lots of time for June. So go ahead and show us your digital deep dives. Okay, you can always submit artwork from these streams as well. So welcome in, guys. Welcome to our digital portrait painting. We're doing a male face today, and you guys voted for Jackie Chan. And I can't believe that he's in his 70s. I was looking up some of his accolades, and it's I think he's the same age as my dad. But very, very accomplished man, and I'm very honored to be drawing him today. Oh, actually, he's the same age as my mom, I guess. Yeah, so he could be my parent. But he's a Hong Kong martial artist, actor, and filmmaker, probably best known for Rush Hour. But let me know what your favorite Jackie Chan movie is. And Rush Hour 4 is in the making. Is that crazy? Rush Hour 4. With 2 grandpas. I don't know how old Chris Tucker is, but probably they probably have to dye their hair in this one. All right, cool. So what we're going to do first is, I'm kind of curious if you guys want me to draw young or old. Do you want me to draw young or old Jackie, because the young version, like, look at that hair. I hope that hair comes back. That hair, oh my gosh. And the let me just zoom in here. Just this look on his face, right? That look, never mind like the glisten of the muscles and all that, but just the hairstyle and that look is super, super retro. And then the older version, so the older version has more wrinkles. He's still looking pretty good here to be 70, you know, but the older version is just like showing how we can really draw a smile. So if you guys go for this one, it would be really in the smiling eyes. Right. This one is like, yeah, all about the hair. Young one, Shanghai Noon, Shanghai Nights. I've actually never seen. I've never seen those. That should be on my list. Is he doing his own stunts at 70? I think so. Cool. So, let me know if you guys want the young one or the old one. Old one with young hairstyle. We could do that. That could be fun. Yeah, that could be fun, Darren. Because if it's just the hair, I do like his expression here, though. But I just want you guys to see something. When people age, our noses get significantly bigger. So Jackie Chan kind of has like a larger nose, you know, than typical Asian faces, I would say. But, and like, in Eastern culture, having a larger nose, specifically a wider nose, is actually good luck. It means that you're going to have good fortune. Now, that's an old wives' tale, but it's funny. Like, big earlobes and wide noses, my mother always told me, is a sign of good fortune. So he definitely has that. I don't know about the earlobes, but the nose. So if you're just joining us, welcome in. We are doing a portrait today of Jackie Chan, and I'm just kind of deciding on which direction to go. Do I want to go young or do I want to go old? But basically what we're gonna do is we're going to go through the main ideas first. So the main ideas is how to we're gonna go from sketch to like really thinking about how to capture likeness. Sketch to capturing the likeness, and then we're going to talk a little bit about structure, like facial structure, and then we're going to go into color and values. We'll see which one we do first. So last week this was the final painting. It's a little bit rough. I mean, don't zoom in or anything because it's like pretty rough. But I chose a purple background for Whoopi because I just, she was in a movie called The Color Purple, and I just thought the purple would be a really nice complement to her color scheme. So this week I was thinking red or orange, or like a green color. Red, I think of when I think of martial arts, maybe blood, maybe like, I don't know. I don't know why I think of red, but let me know if there's any color that you think goes well with Jackie's character. Yeah, we just did the challenge submissions. We did them first. And they were quite good. If you haven't submitted to the monthly challenge, there's still lots of time. So I'm going to walk you through the main ideas, and we're going to jump straight into a live demo so that you can see how this can be applied in real time. And then I'll be featuring really how to capture likeness. I want to really focus in on likeness and structure, which is what most people struggle with, because a lot of artists get the theory, right? But they get stuck when it comes to applying it. And so today we're going to help you guys close that gap. So let me know what is the biggest pain point when it comes to drawing portraits. What are your pain points? Let me know in the chat. What are your pain points for drawing portraits specifically? Because by the end, I'm hoping you'll not only feel comfortable, using these this method that I'm about to show you in your own art, but you'll be confident in making more intentional choices and, you know, the approach to drawing all of this. Okay, so Elise says expressions. Okay. Expressions. Cool. Cool. We'll definitely plan another expressions stream because those are always really fun to do. With expressions, you really need a mirror. And then by the end, we'll hopefully have a semi-realistic colored portrait. All right, so we've got about 2 hours together. And big shout out to our Discord community and our wonderful subscribers. You guys are awesome. If we haven't met, my name is Faye. I'm one of the instructors here at Wing Canvas, and I specialize in portraiture and figurative art. We are an online school of illustration, helping art nerds turn their passion into income. So you can check us out at wingcanvas.com, and let's get started. Okay, love from India, love from Canada. We're back in. I actually love India. Such a beautiful and wild place. Okay, so young Jackie is winning the poll. Is it because of the hair, guys? Cool. Okay, so let's. I like young Jackie too because he's got a really cool expression. Like he's got this like very serious expression. All right. Well, I went in expecting to draw old Jackie, but here young Jackie is winning the poll. So let's make him a little bit bigger. So I know you guys say that oops, 1 sec. Let me just make this bigger. Let's make him bigger. A lot of you guys have told me specifically that when you're drawing portraits, it's really the it's tough for you guys to capture a likeness, and so I wanted to focus on that today. So unfortunately, I have to delete his muscles so that we can actually focus in on his face. I know it's unfortunate. If this was a longer stream, I would definitely do his muscles, but maybe later. Maybe on the Discord if I don't finish. Okay, so let's take a look at likeness. So here, when we draw in his face, because his hair is such a big part of his face, his face shape, you don't really actually see the structure anymore, right? Like that Loomis ball and shield. I drew that a little bit wide, but like if we started off with that ball and let's make this a little bit bigger. If we started off with just the ball and then come down here and then draw in the shield. This is a pretty generic face. Like all things considered, it's pretty generic. So if you start off with something generic, how do you actually make it recognizable, like instantly recognizable? So I think we need to figure out what are some of the things that create his unique likeness. So first of all, I'm just going to make a list here. Characteristics. So just like when you're planning out a character, you know, if you're designing an OC, you might think, oh, they've got magical powers, or they've got, you know, you want to consider a lot of things that make that person who they are, aside from what they look like. You know, we kind of talked about some of his features, like the wider nose, smaller mouth type of thing, but we can make a list here. So he's got, I'm just going to say like iconic hairstyle, maybe for the younger version. And then he's got, let's say his eyebrows are pretty straight. You know, like they're pretty kind of like this shape. So straighter eyebrows. Let's see, what else? He's got a slightly wider nose and kind of like a smaller mouth. Smallish mouth? Smallish. These are just like, because I'm also a caricature artist, I always look for things that set them apart. And I think that with Jackie Chan, he's got kind of like almost like a wider face. Like it's like he's got like a squarish, kind of like a squarish face. It's a little bit hard to see because of his hairstyle, and he's got a pretty thick neck. And yeah, so we'll start with this list. Also like lots of angles, angular. Uh-oh, what happened to my brush? That was weird. Angular features. And like his personality is also a good one because you can insert some of the personality into his portrait. So he's funny, right? He's not just like a martial artist. He's funny. He's a comedian. So he's like a joker maybe. And he's known for his roles in comedy. Yeah, so I kind of tried to make he's very fit, right? Muscular. So I try to make a list before I go into drawing somebody, just so I can kind of keep in mind, because I don't know about you guys, but I remember things better when I make a list. Okay, so what we can do now is then draw in the hair, because we want to focus on shapes. So capturing likeness is really all about shapes and proportions. So if you can draw just shapes on a face, and without any really recognizable features other than shapes, and you should already start to see whether the likeness is there or not. It's an interesting thing. So instead of like worrying about all the details, you know, where the eyes go, where do certain things go, if you just kind of focus on shapes, drawing in the shapes that you see first, then you're doing a lot of the work already. So right now I'm just kind of trying to focus in on the hair. Rabbit Wizard, welcome in. You love watching me draw? Thank you. I love drawing for you guys live. I actually really enjoy drawing live, like in person as well. It's like meditation for me. So thank you for being here. And you wish you'd done it when you were younger. It's never too late for you. Never, ever too late. Drawing is a lifelong hobby, and it's something that is very enjoyable. So if you enjoy it, just start. It's never too late. I've taught people who started in their 40s, like mid 40s, who didn't even know how to draw a circle. And then they were doing portraits like within a couple of years. So it's never too late. You're pretty old. Oh, come on, guys. No. We're not. Think about some of if you think about like, there are some rock stars who didn't make it until they were like in their 50s and 60s, and they were playing in bands since they were in their teens. So like the Flaming Lips, one of my favorite bands, you know. So you're only old if you think you're old. I don't like to think I'm old, although I am a little older. All right, so in terms of the nose, I'm like on automatic, so I kind of started drawing out the details, but let's not draw out the details. Let's just draw out the shapes that we see. Usually the nose sits on the bottom of that circle, and there's a bit of a shadow on the bottom of the nose. And sometimes the shadow is shaped like that. Sometimes it's shaped like this. In this case, like the lighting is pretty flat, so I'm just gonna kind of keep it a little flatter. And then put in his mouth. So you can kind of see if I bring the sides of the nose all the way down, then you'll kind of get the opening of his mouth. Right? And that's why it's a little bit small, because usually speaking, the mouth extends beyond the nose. In this case, it's like the same width as his nose. So to me, that means he's got a small mouth. And I'm just, you know, I'm just like making these observations based on the standard proportions that I see, or like the, I guess you could say the average. Everything that I'm saying is just the average. If you can think of the most average, most boring, generic face, that's what I'm comparing it to. Right, the average. And nobody's average looking, even though we tend to let the average define our perception of beauty. We think that to be beautiful, you know, our eyes shouldn't be too big or too small, our noses should be average, our mouths should be average. But it's really the not average faces that you don't forget. You know, like the average faces, there's really not a lot to remember, because it's pretty average, right? That's why good-looking people, or I should say that in quotations, good-looking people, or like average people, the average-looking person, they're very hard to draw because they're hard to exaggerate, because there's nothing that is overly different about them. You know what I mean? So I don't really like drawing average people. Yeah, exactly. If Jackie Chan can do Rush Hour 4 in his 70s, you can start drawing. You don't have to do any tricks. Good point, Darren. Okay. So the other thing I noticed about his eyes are they're very angular. They're like this, right? Especially with angry eyes. And you can see that like the same guy on the left, when he's smiling, he's got much less angles when he's smiling, right? When he's smiling, he's got curves, like, you know. So yes, it's possible for the same person to have like eyes that are either very angular or very curved, and it's like still the same guy, right? So here he's like got this kind of shape. Okay, so if you guys want young Jackie Chan, well, there you go. So he's got these dark eyebrows. This is definitely like a kung fu pose. So next I'm gonna draw in the details of his nose, kind of along the bottom here, and just kind of sketching it out. Yeah, this is going to be step by step. So if you want to draw Jackie Chan with me, you can follow along. hopefully by the end of the stream, you'll have a pretty good portrait. If all goes well. Don't worry though, because it's a process, and what I like drawing, why I like drawing live and like why I like teaching is also because my students get to see my mistakes happen in real time. And then they a lot of them are like, oh wow, Faye messes up too. Like she messes up a lot. And I'm like, yeah, I do. That's because on Instagram, you know, or on social media, you're not really going to see the messed up parts. You're not going to see the drawings in their ugly stage. But I'm all about seeing drawings in their ugly stage, because that's how we learn to get better. So the other thing I like to do is I like to kind of measure out the distance between the eye and the nose. I feel like I drew his eyes a little too big, so his nose looks a little too short. So I'm just going to move the bottom here. Just going to move it a little bit lower. And sometimes when you move stuff, you'll have to adjust other things. Right, so like here, I'm going to adjust the shape of his chin, so his chin isn't off to the side. And then he had a much thinner face. Like if you look at the nose, like if you measure out his nose, I'm drawing on this guy's nose right now, but if you measure out his nose, and you can kind of see that the edge of his face is probably 3 widths of his nose, like down to his neck here. And then if I added another section, it's like almost within that section itself. So you can use the nose as a unit of measurement, and then you can kind of see, oh, okay, well the nose and the eyes are roughly the same width, and the nose and the mouth are roughly the same width, right? So measuring is something that is essential to do if you want to capture a good likeness. So now I'm going to say, okay, well, this measurement is pretty accurate in terms of the nose. And then you can also go the opposite way, and you can say, okay, now I'm going to measure vertically. So I'm going to take let's take the length of his mouth, because that's like a nice unit of measurement here. And that's to the top of his lip. So like this part that sticks out. Okay, so his chin is roughly the length of his mouth, or sorry, the height of his mouth. And then this part of his nose, like the top of this circle on the left, right, is 1 mouth width. And then if I had to extend it up, that would go to the corner of his eye. So this is a really good way to measure stuff. So we can kind of go in and double check that our measurements work. So let's go back in and we'll check. So we'll take, I'm going to do this on a separate layer. So let's take like a red color, and we'll say, okay, there's the mouth, and we're going to go 1 more measurement up to here. And now I can see that the nose is a little bit too short, right? The chin, probably okay, although I could probably bring it down a little bit more. And then 1 more length here to the corner of his eye. And I can see the corner of his eye is too low, right? So now that after I measure, I can go in and start to tweak things. So I can, let's see, the first thing I'll do is make his chin a little bit lower, right, to kind of match that. So really, it's just about measuring and getting used to measuring. And I don't mean measuring with like inches or centimeters, but I'm talking about measuring using something that is existing on the face that you could use as a unit of measurement. Okay, so his nose is actually a little higher. Right, so these are the subtle details that I would miss if I didn't actually measure stuff. Okay, and then his eyes are a little low, so let's just lasso it. Lasso everything, and we're just going to move them up just a tiny bit. So I had a feeling his nose was a little short, and this confirms it. Okay. So once I move that up, now I can remove my measurements, and I can see that that's probably a better likeness. Another hard thing about measuring is also the angle of the overall face. Yeah, totally. So this angle is a little easier, and I would recommend if you're a beginner to kind of start off with the 3/4, like a 3/4 view or a front view. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. So, oh my gosh, should I draw on his face? I did, guys. I drew on his face. Oh well. Let me see if I can find another picture of him. Yeah, I drew that on his face, so he's got these permanent lines on him now. Let me see if I can find this picture again. There we go. Okay. Phew. This one has all his muscles too. So, okay. If the character is tilting, the measuring still works. Like it still works. The method of comparing comparing stuff is still valid. Like it will still work. I'm not sure exactly what it is you find the most challenging about it in different angles, but it should check out, especially if you're working with something that's flat, right? Welcome in, Chapanda, did I say that right? Thanks for joining us. If this is your first stream with us, welcome in. I don't think I've seen you before. But yeah, we're drawing a digital portrait today, and I'm gonna kind of take you through my steps. Right now, we're kind of in the likeness phase. We just drew the features, and now I'm gonna start going into structure, where I just start to draw out the side of the face. So if you're familiar with the Loomis method, right, this is the this line here represents the side of the face. You can also see that the shadows start to break up around here, around the cheek, right? It's like a hard edge, and then it gets a little bit softer, and then it goes back into a hard edge. There's a little bit of reflected light, but those don't have to be definite shapes. Really, the structure is this is the side, and this is the front, and that's it. Right? You don't really need to worry about all the details just yet. Okay, next I'm just gonna draw out his shoulders. Also, when you're drawing somebody who's really buff, right, their shoulders are a little higher, and then they have these muscles. It's the trapezius muscle on the back. So it's actually a back muscle that appears in the front. And so I'm not going to draw his hands because I don't want to complicate this lesson. I want to make sure we have ample time for the front. Here he's also quite a bit younger, but I am going to draw in some of the bags under his eyes just to kind of help with the expression. And then you can always check if the eyes work by just like filling them in. So just like fill them in, make them dark. And it's important to remember that when you're drawing eyes, they don't, there's not like a perfect ball, especially when somebody's angry. The top of the iris and pupil are going to get cut off, right? So you only really see half of that ball, half of the dark part of the eye or the iris. Okay. So I guess I didn't really measure out the hair, but I feel like the distance right now from the from this line over here that I made, this line here, to the bottom, it's like if I took that distance, if I took this distance and I repeated it. Let me draw this on a separate layer, actually. So if I did this, right, from the corner of his eye to the bottom of his chin, and then let's say I move that up. So I'm going to move it up. I can kind of see that there's one more mouth height to the top of his hair. One more mouth height. Okay. So I feel like I definitely didn't make his hair high enough. I can tell just by looking at it, but let's measure it out. So I have too many layers on now. Okay, so let's take this from the corner of his eye and we're gonna move it all the way up. Oh, you know what? That actually works. Okay. Okay, well, I stand corrected. It actually is correct. But you know what? I think I'm going to make the hair just a little bit bigger because I like to exaggerate stuff. Yeah, very voluminous hair. I know, the hair is so good. It's very rare that somebody can pull off this hairstyle, and I want to see it come back. So guys, if you're watching this, and can you guys make this hairstyle come back? The luscious hair is so good. It's like that 70s, 80s voluminous hair. I feel like nowadays it's like we like the short trim and the beard, although I'm a big fan of beards. I don't think Jackie Chan is can grow a nice like Tom Selleck mustache, you know. Yeah. But maybe when he's older, like maybe when he's in his 90s, he can play one of those old kung fu masters with like the white beard and the really long eyebrows. That would be really fun. Okay. Okay, so once we have our sketch, and like it's okay, I would think it's probably good enough to start painting. I don't want to get too trapped in the details. As I'm adding more details to this. So, okay, so I'm just gonna call this done. This is gonna be my sketch. And then I'm going to move on to the painting. Have you guys thought about what color I should use for the background? Should I use red? What do you guys think is a good Jackie Chan color? What is a good Jackie Chan color? Right. So last week I did purple in the background. I'm going to use a similar technique just because it's faster. It's like way faster for me to work with a background color. And then I think the other thing I'm going to do is maybe add a tilt to his head. I'm going to try it because it's always a... Whoops. No, I didn't mean with that. It's always more dynamic when the head is on a bit of a tilt. So maybe like that. Olive, red, yeah, I'm thinking red. I think red and yellow are very, like, they're very Chinese colors. But yeah, red and yellow are good. I was thinking like a reddish orangish color. I think that would be really cool. So the first thing I'll do is let's take this sketch off of this layer here. Because I shouldn't have drawn it on that layer to begin with. So let's... Okay, I'm going to create a new layer here. And call this sketch. Organizing my layers are a pain, but I'm always glad I do it in the end. Okay, now let's make a copy of this. So I'm going to duplicate this layer and turn off my original sketch. And I'm going to use my copy to do the final piece. And I always like to have different references, like because I mentioned this in my last stream, but when you only have one reference picture of somebody, you're only seeing one side of them, and that was interpreted through a camera, through lighting effects, and like you really don't get enough information. Whereas when you can you know, when you can actually have multiple images of that person, you're definitely going to get more a more rounded view of them and their character, if that makes sense. Like, it's like sometimes photos lie. Like, have you ever seen a photo of yourself where you look amazing, but it doesn't actually look like you? That's what most of the pictures are online of that you see on Instagram. They're all heavily distorted with filters and, you know, ultimately, like, sometimes it doesn't even look like the person anymore. And that is very common. So that's kind of why I like to have multiple images so that I have a lot of information. Okay, so let's choose a red, like a real bright red. I do like olive, but I kind of want a super bright color. So any super bright color, I'm down for. Yeah, you know why? Like, if we definitely see green in the shadows here because the green in the background is olive, right? If the green in the background is olive, you're going to see olive in the shadows. Whereas, like, if I zoom in on this one where the background is red, you can see that there's like a lot more red in the shadows, right? So the background color is going to affect a lot of the shadow colors on the actual portrait. So that's why choosing a background is like essential for me to start a portrait. If I don't choose a background color and I just start rendering on white, well, guess what? Everything is going to look a little weird when I introduce the background color. So that's why, like, I think introducing a background is really important, at least to know that you're going to work with this background, because otherwise you're going to have to make a lot of adjustments. So I'm going to go from like red to orange, I think, because I think that would be kind of neat. So I'm just going to use a gradient tool here and just add some orange hints at the bottom, and I have my layer locked. So this is like fiery red. Yeah. Fiery red. This is also going to change the skin color that I use. Okay, so yeah, red and green. You know what? You can pull off red and green. Peace Heart Divided said, sucks because red and green can look so pretty together. It can, but it doesn't have to be Christmassy. As long as one is more dominant than the other, then it's fine. It's with Christmas, like the red and green are equally saturated. So that's why it looks so Christmassy. I think that season owns the red and green combo. But I've definitely seen red and green used really, really well. It's starting to look like the Kung Fu Panda movie. Oh my gosh, I have to look that up now. Which version? Because I know there's so many Kung Fu Pandas. Is it the original from 2008? Oh, this one. Haha. That's funny. I guess that's kind of funny because he was in Kung Fu Panda too, right? Oh my gosh, this is so funny. Let me put this in. It's funny what colors can do to remind you of things. So good. That was totally unintentional, but I actually really like that. I think that's funny. Okay. If you start with bright colors, it's always more fun, in my opinion. Okay. So, what I'm gonna do first is on top of my color layer, I'm gonna name this background. Background. And I'm gonna put this underneath my sketch. And I'm going to start coloring stuff in. And I'm going to start with the black of the hair because hair is such a huge part of a portrait that I feel like I should get that in first. Right now I'm just using the basic 6 details. I'm going to make this brush really large so you can see what it looks like. It's a solid brush with some just some little bit of texture around the sides, right? Just a little bit of texture. So that's what it looks like. I actually really, really like this brush. And if you see me paint traditionally, you'll notice that I use the same kind of brush traditionally. I love these square brushes. They're great. So I'm just going to start to paint in his hair, mostly going to paint it pretty opaque. But instead of like using the lasso tool, I can actually get some more texture by just painting it in and kind of following the direction of the hair. And the reason why I do the hair first is I like to start with the darkest values first. Because let me know, guys, if you've ever drawn something and you go to shade it, like the drawing looks pretty good, right? Then you go to shade it, and then the shading takes forever because you kind of go little by little, right? You go a little bit darker, and then a little bit darker, and then a little bit darker, and then a little bit darker. And it's like, you can just keep going forever. And the reason why it's always faster and more efficient to start with your darker colors is because you already know your darkest values. So you already have like a ceiling and a floor. So the floor being white, the midtone being your background color, right? And then the ceiling being your white, or sorry, the ceiling being your black. Right, so then you already know, okay, well, that's the area of highest contrast. And then all you need to do is figure out the in-betweens. But if you go really slowly because you're scared, and it just gets more painful because it just is so slow. So let me know if you've done that. I've done that for a really long time before I figured out, okay, I think I really need to just start with my darks first, instead of chickening out, you know? Your hair drawing skills are bad? Why aren't we all baldies? You know what? Hair, check out my hair stream. I did a stream and we turned it into a video on how to draw hair in a really efficient way. That could really help you, Jack. Jack fell down. Get up. You can do the hair. The trick to drawing hair is just to not get too like, don't use really hard edges because then it's gonna look like Lego hair, right? You want to try and use soft edges, which is what I'm doing here, which is why it's like a little bit more manual. But I'm going in and just because this is a pressure sensitive brush, right, I'm just kind of going in and just feathering like this, kind of feathering it out in the direction of hair growth, and then it looks pretty natural. So let's go in and the other thing that I see people do when they draw hair is they'll tend to kind of make the highlights on it white. They immediately think, okay, well, I'm gonna go maximum contrast on the hair and just kind of make the highlights white. But what actually ends up happening is it doesn't look right, because highlights, even on maybe on blonde hair, you'll get some whitish looking highlights, but on black hair, it's simply too much. So if I started like putting on highlights, you know, with white, it's gonna look really bad. You'll only get white highlights when the hair is wet. And even then, it's not going to be, like, it's going to be pretty messy. So you can see with the reference here at the top, this one right here, that one, you can see little bits of white for the highlights. But actually, when you're drawing highlights, you probably want to keep it pretty low contrast. So if I wanted to add a few highlights, let's see if I can find a brush. I'm just using this dry brush here to test it out. If I added some highlights here, right, you can see it's a lot less in intensity. And that looks a little bit more appropriate, right? And you can see how far it is on the value scale. It's actually pretty dark. And highlights are things that you can kind of build up as you go, right? So I can just lock this layer so that it doesn't go below this layer, and then just kind of continue to build on the hair. There's a little bit going this way as well. And you want to think about the hair as a form. So the highlights are going to be expressing that form, right? The highlights are going to be sort of mimicking mimicking the hair growth. So I kind of messed up here. I'm just going to take the black and go over it. You do struggle to pick colors at times. IBelZ. You know, value is extremely difficult, but you do get scared of touching color. You know what? I think it's fine to be scared. I think that's normal. But once you understand, and if you had to prioritize something, prioritize values over colors, always. Because once you have a good understanding of values, then you can get away with so much when it comes to your colors. Now, there's a little bit of reflected light on the right of his hair that you can see, right? And it's like similar to the color of the background. Now, the reflected light is usually reflected light is like cooler than the main source of light, but it depends on the lighting here. So if I want to, I think I'm gonna make it warmer because the reflected light is likely going to be reddish. So instead of this red, I'm gonna use the orange up here and add some of this reflected light to the outside of his hair and just kind of see what that looks like. Like that orange could kind of be cool looking. And we're starting with hair because it frames his face. Piece art divided. I have a couple of itty bitty 5x3" canvases which I paint on them. I would do like eye studies. You could paint like an eye on them or just paint like one facial feature maybe, so it's not as scary. So I'm using a dry brushing brush, but I'm gonna return back to my basic 6 details and just kind of get in this little bit of hair here. If you are not huge on portraits, or just because like you haven't done them often, you can always start by just doing studies. Those are very low risk ways of starting out, right? Trying something new. Okay, let's make him look a little less red. Let's go in and start putting in the skin tone. So you can see I have various references here for his skin tone. I'm probably going to choose something a little bit closer to the yellow side rather than the pink side because it will probably complement the background a little better. So I'm just going to be choosing the colors on my own, just kind of eyeballing them and putting down swatches. So this color, if I eyedropper the color on him, just watch this little ball over here move. Okay, so it's like it's pretty close. It's almost like it's a little bit lighter than this, right? A little bit lighter, but like pretty close on that triangle. I like to choose my own colors manually because it just helps me match colors better visually, especially when I'm working digitally. Like if I'm working traditionally, I have no choice. There's no eyedropper tool. So to train your eye to see color better, it's always better to try and figure it out manually. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is start to paint in this color of his face, and I'm going to put the skin layer on below the the hair layer. And I'm just gonna paint a base for him. Just paint this base in. Oh, might as well do the muscles. I think I have to clip these together. There we go. So I just made a clipping layer so that I can work on individual parts separately, but they will all be clipped to my background layer. So that's a kind of a neat feature. Okay, so now I'm gonna have to find a shadowy color that's not quite red, but warmer. So kind of like in this first example here, or maybe even like in this example over here. So to find the darker shadowy skin color, you can't just like go darker because it's going to be too brown. So we're going to shift the color a little bit more towards the red. So it's kind of like a more redder brown. Oh my goodness, I'm so itchy. I got devoured by mosquitoes and black flies. I spent one summer weekend outside and I have like 100 mosquito bites. Oh my goodness. Okay, let's see. Don't mind my scratching. Go back to the skin layer. Okay, so now I'm just gonna paint in the shadowy colors. What I also really like about this brush is that it is pressure sensitive, so it allows me to get a little bit of transparency, which I love. That can show some of that red color coming through. It also helps me blend in a nice organic way. So I really like that. Right now I'm just trying to match the shapes that I see. And I might have to merge these two layers because right now I have my highlights and my shadow color on one layer. I know some of you guys will kind of use the multiply tool to paint shadows, but with portraits I find that it can be very limiting. So I'm actually painting this as if I was painting it traditionally. So I'm just going to merge it eventually. Darren, I've never seen The Spy Next Door. And I loved Kung Fu Panda, but I haven't seen the Panda Plan. Is that part of the Kung Fu Panda universe? I always tend to have very low expectations for the sequels of movies, and I very rarely see them. Even though I like the first movie, I find that sometimes when I watch the sequels, I don't want to be disappointed, and I don't want to not like the first movie. Or like, you know, like it's weird. It's like I don't want to ruin the first movie if I don't like the second. So I just don't watch it. I think there have been a couple movies where I watched the second first. But most of the time I just kind of avoid the sequels. Yeah, some insects cute. What, ladybugs? What other insects do you find cute? I love insects, actually. I mean, not to pick them up and hug them or anything, but I mean, I love drawing insects. They're really cool. And oh yeah, there was something that I wanted to share. I posted Ryan Gosling because I recently saw his movie Project Hail Mary. I don't know if you guys have seen that, but the alien character named Rocky is the first character design that I can remember that actually doesn't have a face. So it's an alien character with emotions, and you know, he can talk. At least I think it's a he. The gender is not really clear, but it doesn't have a face. Like, there's no eyes. There's no it's just so bizarre because I don't think I've ever seen a character that doesn't have a face before. And I was talking to Josh about it because it blew my mind. Any of you guys seen that movie? Like, if you're a character artist, and I know a lot of us, a lot of people in our community love character design, but like, that blew my mind. I don't think I've ever seen... Yeah, I've never seen a successful character without a face. I wouldn't even know how to start designing a character without a face, I don't think. So I think that was like so original. Like, even with a mole character, I think I was drawing... For a recent class, I was drawing like an insect character, and I thought, okay, well, it would be really cool to maybe draw a we were turning ugly animals into cute stuffies, and I thought, okay, well, a mole is pretty ugly, but I didn't choose it because it didn't really have eyes. And I thought, well, all the emotions of a character are in the eyes, so I felt that was kind of impossible. And then I saw the movie, Project Hail Mary, and I was like, wow, so it's possible. That was a very, very interesting character design. Okay, so there's a little bit of light here, and I think I should put some of those highlights. Normally I don't really put in highlights, but I feel like I need to give it a bit of context here. So Jackie Chan's nose is a little crooked in areas, which is like fun to highlight. Here he's got the kind of like a sweaty upper lip. Which I assume if you're fighting, you know, that makes sense. So let's get that in. There might be some highlights here on his forehead. Let's kind of put some of those in. And okay, so his mouth has some dark parts in it too. The character designer posted their drafts for Rocky. Oh my gosh, cool. I would love to see it. I wonder if Rocky ever had a face as a design concept. I think that would be so cool to see. And I kind of wonder why they didn't give it a face, you know? I wonder if that's something the character artist pushed for, or if it's something that was in the original story. I don't know if anybody's read the book, Project Hail Mary. I don't know if I don't know what actually sparked that, but it's so interesting. Okay, so I chose like a random pink for his lips, and I'm like, oh, they look like Barbie doll lips. Let's get them to be a little less saturated here. So I just kind of skewed it towards purple just to get the top lip in. And then I remember that Jackie Chan does have kind of fuller lips. Especially like his lower lip is pretty full. Let's make that sketch a little lighter. Okay. Jack fell down. There's lots of butterflies right now. It's like butterfly season. And sometimes they land on me and I get super excited. But if it's just because I'm sweaty, then I will remember to not take a shower the next time I visit a butterfly sanctuary. It also depends on what kind of bugs land on me. Like moths, I'm okay with, I guess. It depends on the type of moth. But butterflies, almost all butterflies, I get super giddy when they land on me. Hey Groove, welcome in. Glad you're able to join. And thanks, I'm glad you like my portrait streams. I love portraiture, it's so much fun. And you know what? Everybody thought that the art of portraiture would die after photography was invented. But it's still here, guys, and I still get commissioned to do portraits. And I just have to do them a little bit differently, right? Like how can you like what is a successful portrait nowadays that's done by hand versus something that is, you know, photography with a little bit of like photo manipulation. I mean, now there's like built-in AI tools within the photo application that you're using that can take away wrinkles and can, like, you know, make you look prettier or whatever. It's crazy. But when you do things manually, you really have to capture the spirit or the essence of that person. And there's very much still a demand for traditional portraits. Yeah, there is something so special. I love the look on somebody's face when I show them when I draw them and then I show them their caricature, or their portrait. I just love the look on their face when they see it, like just that delight. It's so good. I suppose it could be not very good. I suppose it could be the opposite as well. But when you've really captured somebody, they are super delighted and grateful, and that's one of the best feelings. Okay, so he's got really pink lips. Let's just ignore that for now until I can warm up the rest of the face, okay? Let's go little by little so it's not super overwhelming. Right now I just put in a shadow color. I put in a color for the highlights. That shadow color I would love to also make a little bit greener. I see a lot of greens in the eyebrows too, so we can start there. We can start by putting some greens in the eyebrows. And so you don't actually need green. And if I use the eyedropper tool on like the background, for example, the background is green, but it's a very low saturated green. And if I eyedropper the shadows that look green, like let's say right here on his bicep, it looks very green. You can see it's not green at all. It's actually brown. It's like a yellowish color. But the reason why it looks green is because it's next to like an orangey reddish color. So it looks a lot more green than it is. Even his eyebrows. His eyebrows aren't actually green. They just appear green because of the redness around it. So that's color relativity. Really, a really interesting kind of way of thinking about color and color theory. So let me just move this reference over a little bit. Darren, if someone took a picture of you, you'd say delete it, but if they gave me a portrait drawing, you'd be like, oh, MG, yeah, me too. It's because they put in effort and care into the work. Anything handmade is going to be a lot more desirable, I think a lot more coveted or appreciated. So I'm just going to do the eyebrows on the same layer as the hair, because to me that makes the most sense. And when I'm coloring in eyebrows, I try to keep the lines that I use in the direction of the hair growth. Right? Typically, you don't want your eyebrows to go in all directions. So you just want to follow, and with hair too, you want to follow the direction. You can see in the example of the picture above this reference, like his eyebrows can get really far away from his eyes. But if you look at the angry face, or like the I'm ready to fight, this like kung fu battle face, I'm gonna call it. You can see like the eyebrows and the eyes are almost touching. And this is the power of expression, is that most of our expressions are actually in our eyebrows and in our eyes. Okay, there are parts that are a little bit darker, but I think it's time to move on to the eyes. I also don't want his face to be super digital, so I'm gonna try, since this is a digital deep dive, let's go into the skin layer And I'm just going to erase. Whoops. That's not what I wanted. I wanted to do a little bit of erasing. So I want to preserve a little bit of that skin texture, right? And instead of adding red to his face, I'm actually just erasing the yellow color. Because like my background has the warmth that I need. So why paint on top of that when I can just erase it, right? So this is kind of why I like using a tone underneath, is I can just kind of, you know, start to erase some of it and get some of that warmth back. And it also helps you with unity. It also helps you unify the piece when you have a color underneath that can help you do that. And I'm just using a textured brush because I don't want him to look super digital. You're finding it hard to have good colors in your portraits. So I know what you mean. I think a lot of people would agree or find the same things kind of challenging. So really, I would say start with a background color so that you already know a way to unify everything, right? You want to be able to have one color that can provide the unity that you need for your piece. Also, you can see he has a bit of a 5 o'clock shadow, right? He has do you see how the bottom of his face is more green than the top of his face? So in that case, if I want it to be more green, I can just kind of select the yellow that I have, and I'm just going to move it along the bottom. So I'm going to preserve the value of it, but just desaturate it a little bit, right? So you can see here's the new color. And then I'm not actually making it green, I'm just desaturating it. Because as soon as I desaturate it, and I start painting on top of it, I don't think that's obvious enough here. Let's go more of this color. Right, so that's actually gray, but when I put it on, it looks green because of all the red next to it. So I'm just going to choose like a grayish color to kind of go around his face, because even though he doesn't have a beard, he does have you know, hair. He's clean shaven, so he does have a little bit of this greenness on the bottom of his chin. And females have this too, actually. Maybe not as obvious, but we also have more greens or more yellow tones close to our mouth. And we have it too, but you don't want to be as obvious with it, because then it does start to look like somebody has a beard. So then it starts to not be as flattering. Okay, and then there's more of that reflected light, so I'm just gonna erase some of this. Right, that reflected light's looking really cool, but it's really just the background color. So you could do this with any color. It works with any color. It doesn't just work with red, although red is a nice color because you can kind of mimic subsurface scattering, which is like the red glow that you sometimes see. Like for example, in your ear when it's in the light, so you're starting to see some of that redness even here. So there we go. The other thing you can do is you can get you can use a filter to really check your values and see if you're doing them right. So I haven't done the eyes yet, so let's do the eyes next. Does it need its new layer? Do I need a new layer? Sure, I'll put a new layer on for the eyes. Jack Fell Down says, what I have problem with is where the redness would be on the face because of blood below the skin, and where to put the bluish or other hues indicating ambient light. So redness on the face is usually like around the nose and in the cheeks, but it can vary. I think it really depends on the reference itself. So it's partially just observation, right? Just like observing and making better decisions. I mean, also like practice will help a lot. I think that where you warm up the portrait or the skin tones definitely makes a big difference. But those are smaller things that you could adjust later. Like once you focus, if you just focus on the values, then that's the stuff that can happen later. Right, like the shifting of those values. It's partially though, you kind of have to trust your gut in some of these. Like, it's almost like having a feeling and then kind of trusting that. I don't know, it's human intuition. And remember that colors are relative. So sometimes what you think you see is not actually what you see. And it's almost dangerous to kind of generalize and say, oh, well, there's like bluish hues in the face, because sometimes it's not. Sometimes it depends on the background color. Right, or what's in the background. So generally, yes, generally there's bluish and greenish tints. But like, for example, I didn't even draw the whites of his eyes. I just kind of left them the skin color. But it still works. Like, it doesn't feel like it's weird because it's the same value as the skin. Like the white of his eyes, even though in our heads we're like, yes, that's white, it should be white, but it's not, right? Like it's not white at all. So if I zoomed in on this reference and I just like selected the white of his eyes, you can see where it is on the value scale. And then if I select like a highlight on his skin, right, the highlight on his skin is actually brighter than the white of his eyes. You can see that shift in my color wheel, right? And so you can't really just say, oh, eyes are white, so I'm going to make them white. It's all relative. It's like, yes, eyes are white, but what is your background color? What is the surrounding color? And then it may not be white at all. And I think that's the tricky part about color, is it's not, like, sometimes it's not about the color itself. It's about how that color appears next to context. You have to give it some context and then see if it still makes sense. So here you can see, like, if I made his eyes more gray, it almost looks blue. It almost looks kind of bluish. And I'm not sure that's the right approach, but I'm gonna make the top part darker because there should be a shadow in the whites of the eyes. And even that, like, I even think that's a little bit too cool. So maybe I go with a brown instead. Because everything around him is so red that the minute I put gray, any kind of gray down, that gray's gonna look green. Like, his eyebrows already look green, and they're not green at all. They just look green because it's surrounded by so much red. So color relativity is what most people struggle with, not the color itself. Okay, so now I'm going to start adding a little bit of highlight to the bottom of his lids, because kind of that's what I see. Yeah, color relativity. We have some videos on our channel. You can check out the Chevreul's rule of color theory or color interaction. That's one of them. I produced that video, so I've watched it many times. But yeah, color can be very interesting, and you can't be too literal about it, because, for example, something can, like I said, something can look green but not be green at all, and something can look red and not be red at all. It just depends on what's next to it, because our eyes are going to compare to make a judgment. You know, our eyes do not function like the eyedropper tool. We don't just look at something and we're not like taking a sample and analyzing where it sits. Our brains have to process color in terms of context. So for example, at nighttime, you can't see colors very well. You only go off of memory. Like if you look at a tree at nighttime, you probably don't know what the leaves are. Like you don't know what color the leaves are. And so you're just thinking, okay, the leaves are green because you know that leaves are green, but they actually don't look green at all. But if you took a picture and you know, or eyedropper that green, it's probably not going to look green at all. It's probably going to be like a desaturated brown. However, your brain still thinks, no, the leaves are green, even though they don't appear green at all. And so that's where we get mixed up, is that relativity piece. You know what? Yeah, if you join our streams and you just work on stuff, like do your own thing, but you know, we're doing it together, that's keeping you accountable. So that's good. Even if you're forcing yourself to do it, in the end you'll find it fun. So glad to hear it, Chaos Chameleon. Groove 9899 working on a portrait of Ice Cube. Oh yeah, Ice Cube. I remember that guy. Cool. I did really want to draw facial hair. But, you know, you guys tell me what you want to see me draw, and that is the fun part of these streams. I'm like trying to zoom out and see what I can do. He's so chubby looking. How do I make him like less chubby looking? I think it has something to do with his mouth. I can't quite put my finger on it. Let's see. Maybe I can rotate my canvas. Hold Shift plus space. Let's see if this works. Nope. Oh, okay. Let's look at it backwards for a minute here. Sometimes you have to look at something backwards to really get a sense of what you're doing wrong. I'm trying to figure out why he's so chubby, and I think it's because I made his cheek a little bit too big, so I'm just going to work on it upside down a little bit. Let me know if you guys do this as well, but just kind of turning the canvas and comparing can really help. So I'm just going to make this part of his hair just a little bit smaller. A little bit better. Also, the distance between his mouth and his cheek, I think, is a little bit big. Slightly less chubby. So in Krita, I just learned this actually, I just googled it, but if you hold Shift and space, you can turn your piece. So just kind of like turning it and looking at it in different directions can really help you see what you're doing wrong. So right now I'm missing the entire side of his nose in terms of shading. So let's go and fix that. Do you guys, speaking of traditional, do you guys want to see more traditional streams? Because whenever we, like, the streams are fine, but whenever we post traditional videos on our channel, the algorithm does not like it. It does not like it. It never pushes it. And even though we think that as digital artists, it's very important to be able to paint traditionally, our traditional channels, our traditional videos don't do as well on the channel. So let us know what you think about this. Do you guys want to see more traditional demos? I did a bunch of traditional stuff, traditional streams. So I did a portrait too, actually, years ago. That was painted with oils, and I did it live in a 2-hour stream. And that was really fun. I'm actually faster painting traditionally than digitally, so. This month, our challenge is the digital deep dive, so that's why we're doing things digitally. But if you're a traditional artist, let me know in the chat if you work mostly traditionally. Okay, I'm going to spend a little bit of time just making the nose. So structurally, I kind of forgot to make the nose darker on one side. And I'm shading almost like I'm cross-hatching a little bit. Let's turn off the sketch. Yeah, so I'm shading with a flat brush, but creating texture. Can you guys hear the hammering? There's some construction going on outside. So sorry if you can hear the hammering. Yeah, we've done lots of oil and watercolor streams. And if you actually want to learn more painting techniques with us, you can join our school platform, SKOOL/WingCanvas. You can try out our school platform for free for 7 days. And we have lots of acrylic and watercolor painting modules in our school platform. So you can try those out completely free for 7 days. So if you want, try them out. We're also doing workshops, like live painting workshops for school members. Arinya is doing those. They're very beginner friendly. In my mentorship classes on Thursdays, I will work traditionally. Right now we're working with gouache and watercolor, which is the preferred medium by illustrators. I've also lost quite a bit of my drawing here because I turned off the sketch. So I'm just going to go back in and add my lines back. I think every digital artist should try traditional, because if you only work digitally, then you actually don't know how to mix colors, and that's a problem. Also because digital is really good for things like concept art or even like comics, and it's kind of like the medium if you're going to be a commercial artist. But if you want to, exhibit your work, or if you find that you're printing your digital work, participating in exhibitions and that kind of stuff, I definitely think it's worth learning traditional techniques, because come on, it's fun. Start off with, it's a lot of fun, and it's also, I don't think it's going anywhere. I think it's actually going to be more there's going to be more demand for it because everything is so digital. So and then also with traditional, you have like a physical piece in the end, something that's tangible. So I think traditional is really important. Yeah, definitely. Digital lacks some things. Like there's, for example, like with digital, it's so easy to just cover up your mistakes. Like there's never, it's it's so easy to just Control Z. Whereas with traditional, it's like if you make a mistake, you have to figure out how it's going to work. Like you have to figure out how you're going to, you know, like what you're going to do to make it work. And that, I think, leads to more creativity. That actually makes it more interesting in a way. Like it makes the journey a lot more unexpected. Because there are things, I definitely know there have been times where I made a mistake, and the mere act of fixing my mistakes made them better. Like I had to make a decision on the fly, but then it ended up being really cool looking, and I would have never arrived at that had I done it digitally, because I would have just undid it, you know? So there's definitely something wrong with his mouth. Ugh. And his eyes, the highlights on his eyes are a little bit too noticeable. I've been doing a little bit of zooming in and zooming out just to make sure that I have the basics down, but for some reason it doesn't look like him. I feel like I've lost the likeness a bit. Maybe I need to paint the bags in his eyes a little bit more. Let's do that on the skin layer. I feel like not having the bags under his eyes makes him look a little bit weird. There's something weird about his face. Let me know if you can see it. I can't. I'm trying to figure out what it is. Why it doesn't look like him yet. But if you guys can see in the chat with fresh eyes, let me know. I think adding the bags under his eyes makes it a little bit better, but he's still very digital looking. So there's just something about not being able to use brush strokes. Yeah, his upper lip is too thick. I think I need to make it darker. It's definitely in his mouth. His mouth looks very awkward. So let's fix it. Let's fix his mouth. Yeah, thank you. I definitely appreciate the fresh eyes. Okay, let's fix the mouth. I think it's all in the skin layer. Darren says the distance from his nose to his upper lip looks greater than in the reference pic. Yeah, that's true. That is true. Thank you for noticing. Okay, let's just take this part of his lip and we're just gonna move it up a little bit. You know what? I'm gonna copy and paste, that way I don't lose the bottom of it. And That's a little better. Good eye. Good eye. Okay. So let's merge these. Elise says, and the nose is maybe not quite in line with the way it should be. Like the lips are too centered, kind of. Yeah, I see what you mean. Like the tip of his nose is bigger, right? Than in the reference picture. Good eye. I can fix that. I can fix that. Where did I draw that nose part? Oh my gosh, I drew it on the eyes layer. Of course I did. Well, at least now I know how to erase it. Let's erase that. And then go back. That's the thing about having so many layers is sometimes I get a little mixed up. Okay, get a little darker. There's like so many parts I want to fix. But yeah, thanks for the feedback, guys. This is why, like, I love actually painting live with you guys, is because you're watching and you have fresh eyes, and sometimes I love taking your suggestions. What is going on? Oh, it's in my eyes layer. So the other thing I like about Krita is you can use brushes as eraser tools. And so you can actually erase using the same textured brush as you would when you are when you're drawing, instead of using a hard eraser or one of the standard erasers. Okay, I'm gonna merge the eyes with the skin layer so that I don't. What happened? Ah, it's clipped. Okay. Let's see if this works, if I merge them. There we go. Okay, that's better. Thank you, Elise. That definitely looks better. And thank you, Jaren, for noticing. You guys have good eyes. Okay, let's move the nose over a little bit. And now his mouth. So when was the last time you guys have done a self-portrait? Any of you guys drawn a self-portrait lately? Or ever? I'm doing some curriculum planning and like I feel like I need to put a self-portrait in there, but I'm trying to make it kind of fun instead of, you know, the dreaded self-portrait. Nobody wants to do a self-portrait, but I feel like it's like an act or rite of passage that every artist should do. The head is also a bit tilted. Yeah, I tilted it on purpose though. I tilted the head just to make it more dynamic, but that's a good observation. Self-portraits are great, yeah. The nose also seems to be shorter in the drawing, although I could be wrong. Yeah, you know, we measured it, but I suppose we could make it longer. We could always make it longer. Maybe I'll save that adjustment for later, but I did, yeah, we did in the beginning. I don't know if you were there for that, Jack, but we did measure it. But sometimes, like, it's better to exaggerate, you know? Sometimes it's like measuring may not always solve the problem. I also think like his lips are too pink, so let's bring it more towards the orange so that he doesn't look like he's wearing lipstick. Although I know a lot of actors do wear lipstick, but like a more natural kind of color. I mean, there's nothing wrong with lipstick. Although I don't wear lipstick. I just find I find it annoying to like get it everywhere, you know, like on my cups and everything. Let's add some texture to his mouth. And let's zoom in here. You never intend to do a self-portrait? Why? The mouth corner on the right could be open a little more. True. Let me do that right now. Yeah, it could kind of be like a little bit softer too. His mouth does look kind of weird though. There's always something about portraits that like if it's not in the eyes, it's in the mouth. I definitely have the most trouble with mouths. Like I thought it would be noses and eyes, but I find sometimes the mouths are the most challenging. It's because I don't really spend a lot of time on them and then realize that I should have spent more time on them. Or maybe I should have started a little earlier. So let's see. He also has some teeth. They're not super visible, but maybe if I went a little bit darker. I'm trying not to render too much, because then I'm just gonna get lost in the details. Yeah, he has a smirk. I know. Not intentional. Not intentional. Trying to figure it out. So yeah, I didn't get a chance to finish the body. And I feel like his overall, I feel like I was able to capture the likeness okay, but if I had more time, usually like the last 80% of a drawing takes just as long. I mean, the last 20% of a drawing takes just as long as the first 80%. So I could be working on this for like another couple hours and you'd be like, wait, when did you change? I don't see a difference. Right now I just want to get his hair a little bit fluffier. And this hairstyle, oh. It's like, didn't Bruce Lee have this hairstyle too? I feel like this is the Bruce Lee hairstyle. Like, I wouldn't really know this as the Jackie Chan hairstyle. And then in the picture, it looks like he's talking, but in the drawing, it looks like he's spitting or pushing air out of his lips. Yeah, the lips, I have to definitely take a closer look at. But it looks like he's giving tons of attitude. I also think that there's more, like there's a lot more nuance in the side of his face that I wasn't able to capture in the time that I had, but let's just very quickly put in some, let's put in some body highlights. I'm gonna keep it pretty basic because I want to really focus in on his I want to focus more. Oh, that's what was causing that. Let me merge this mask layer with the background. Okay. Oh, the layers. Organizing layers. Necessary, but not fun. Kind of like organizing your palette. For you traditional painters, or I think palette organization is such a undervalued part of painting. Because if you have a messy palette, it's so hard to paint efficiently, you know? It's just so hard. That's a topic for another stream, though. The layer, the palette organization. You think a small laugh line would help the lips? What do you mean by laugh line? Like around the nose? Yeah, there's always something about like realistic portraits. It takes time to find what's wrong with it and adjust. So there's definitely moments where it looks a little bit weird. And like, that's just the process. You gotta be okay with that. So, yeah. I could try a laugh line and see how that looks. And so like the orange in the background, it's probably better for me to just erase some of the skin tones. Like if I just erase some of the skin tones and get some of the orange back, like that can be kind of nice. Yeah, trust the process, exactly. Groove, thanks for joining us. You gotta work in the morning? Yeah, no worries. Have a good sleep. Thanks for joining. I know some of you guys are joining from the other side of the world. It's always cool to know where you guys are from. Yeah, you're welcome. My pleasure. Always fun to draw with you guys. This coming Saturday, usually Josh streams on Saturdays, but this coming Saturday, I will be streaming with a very special guest, Sean Hayes Holgate, one of our newest instructors. He's a veteran at designing games. So he's been a concept artist for over 20 years, working at Electronic Arts. And now he is teaching with us and passing on his knowledge of the industry. So if you are an aspiring concept artist and you want to kind of know what it's really like to, you know, work as a concept artist, what you need to have in your portfolio, then definitely join us for our stream on Saturday. And then Josh is going to be streaming on Monday for you guys. So we're switching temporarily. I also realized that I made his shoulder way too small. He's pretty buff, you know? So let's make it bigger here. All right. Okay, let's make his mouth slightly less thick at the top. Yeah, join us on Saturday. It's going to be fun. It's going to be Q&A style. We're going to have our cams on. And you can ask any questions that you would like. I have a bunch of questions for Sean too. He actually designed Plants vs. Zombies. He worked on Skate. He worked on Speed, Need for Speed. A lot of big games. Let's add a little bit of reflected light to his eyes. I think that might be fun. Oops! What happened? Oh no, my Krita crashed! Ah! Oh no. Ugh. Okay, let's save this baby. Let's do... Let's save it. Unfortunately, I lost some of my work, but luckily Krita has an autosave feature. It just suddenly just didn't want to work anymore. It just suddenly crashed, which was really weird. But anyway, I'll have to redo what I did. What did I do? I made his shoulders wider. Yeah. Whoever came up with the idea of autosave is a genius. Because I don't know about you, but I don't save my work. And when autosave became a thing, I was like, why wasn't this a thing years ago? Why only now, after I've lost so much work? Is it now only now is it a thing? Yeah. Woof. Well, I think I have to fix all the stuff I did with the mouth now again, but hopefully it won't take too long. And thanks for your suggestion to draw some of the laugh lines. I think the laugh lines will help, actually. Let's find a shadowy color that's not too dark. Yeah, like, you don't see it in the original, but adding some of these laugh lines would help. And also, I realized that I feel like I have to do the nose part over again. Move that over. Scared me for a sec. It scared me too. Yeah, the mouth needs work. It's still pretty awkward. It looks like he's growling a little bit, like "Arr." He's growling. And definitely the forehead is a lot more nuanced than what I drew, so try not to try not to zoom in too much. That's not the first time Krita has crashed. It doesn't like it when I have a bunch of applications open, especially Discord. It doesn't like it when I have Discord open. And Discord auto shut off as well when this happened. So okay, so I'm just gonna bring back some of that background color. And then there's like a lot of greens that are kind of on the bottom of his neck. I didn't intend on rendering any muscles today, so you guys will just have to live with this loose interpretation of the muscles. I wanted to more so focus on his face than anything else. But yeah, I feel like I kind of overdid the highlights on top of his mouth. That could be leading to the weirdness of it, I think. Maybe. But thanks for all of your input and your ideas. I enjoyed all of it. Except for the 2 seconds when I realized that I might have lost all the work that I just did. But yeah. Bye, Darren. Have a good rest of your day. Alright, guys. I need to make his eyebrows darker, I think. It's weird that he's got gray eyebrows. It's weird. So, I really like this dry brushing brush. It makes really natural strokes. So it's good for drawing hair and such. I could try widening a little bit more of the right cheek. Yeah, I could see that. I could definitely see that. I think maybe I just, because I tilted his head, it might be messing with my perspective here, so let me just move. Let me just tilt this reference. So I kind of have it like this. But yeah, I see what you mean about the cheek on the right. I feel like I gave him too much hair on the right, and I sort of didn't make his cheek wide enough. Good observation. You guys are great. Okay, so let's do that. Let's shorten it. Or I'm gonna go in and remove the hair. Remove some of the lines in the hair. Oh, my stomach is grumbly. It's like it's lunchtime, past lunchtime for me. I don't usually eat lunch though. Like unless I'm going out. I find when I eat a lot of food before a stream, I just get so tired. So yeah, I typically don't eat before streams. I don't want to fall asleep on you guys. Do you ever get that, like, that afternoon, just a tiredness when you have to process food? Is that just me? Okay, let's widen this. Exaggerating the lips, how so? Like making them smaller? Or making them... What do you mean by exaggerate? I think that did help. That definitely helped. Cool. Thank you, Jack Fell Down. Even though the lips are leaning towards the right side because the head has more of a tilt, the expression is lost. Yeah, maybe. I'm kind of glancing back and forth to kind of see what I need to do. I think it's also because like his upper lip should be darker, and I have it a little bit too light. So maybe that's what's causing it to, like, if I just darken this top lip, it might be a little better. But a lot of the times, like when you're doing portraits, it's really helpful to have somebody to just like double check, because humans are really, really good at you know, being able to tell the subtle nuances between faces, even faces that we're not familiar with. And so it's great to have you guys as like here to give me a second opinion. So thank you. I really appreciate it. I do really like this fiery highlight here, though. I think it's pretty cool looking. I just wish there was a little bit more of it, you know? Like, let's see if I can put a little bit more. I think the other thing I wanted to do was kind of tone down the highlights in his eyes. That could be something that is causing it to look a little funny. Even though I really like the, like using, adding adding a highlight to the eyes. Sometimes it can be a little bit too overdone. So here I'm just going to take a little bit of that red and just put it in the eyes as like a bit of a reflection. This guy literally has fire in his eyes. And the highlights are actually the skin tone. They're not actually white. They're more the skin tone. That's kind of cool. All right, guys. Well, I think that, oh, Jack fell down. You have another tip for me. Tilting them more to the right. Making them wider. Making them wider. Okay. He has a kind of a slight overbite, so his lower lips are kind of leaning more than the upper ones, while in the drawing the lips are lining up. I feel like his bottom lip is bigger, and I didn't actually capture that well. So it could be that. I'm gonna try one more thing. I'm gonna try making his lower lip a little bit wider. But like I know what you mean. Like I feel like the tilt of the mouth is a little bit high. Oh my gosh, these are just like tiny incremental shifts, right? That can cause so much distress. They definitely like these tiny little changes can make a huge difference to the likeness. And actually, I thought he would be easier to draw than someone like Whoopi Goldberg, but he's actually a little bit more challenging. So all right. What else do I want to do? I want to kind of erase some of his the colors here. Whoops. But I feel like I could kind of be chipping away at this for a very long time. So I think I'm gonna call it now, but thanks again, guys, for joining me. It was a lot of fun. I will post this on the Discord with all of my notes. So if you haven't joined the Discord, be sure to join our community, because you can get community feedback on all of your artwork. You can post your artwork, share your artwork, stay accountable. Lots of art nerds on the server who can definitely keep you motivated and accountable. That's where our team lives, is on the Discord, and many of our students and community members. So I hope to see you on there. Oh, you know what I noticed is that the shadow on his nose is a lot lower than in the picture. I just noticed that now, and I think I have to change that. Okay. I have to change it. I feel compelled because it's easy. I can do it pretty easily. Oh, that's better. Thank you, Anna Anuska. Yeah, it's definitely easier to see the fault in others' work. But you know what? It's totally beneficial. And if you can turn that critique, like if somebody offers you some advice, right? And at first sometimes it can kind of feel like it's a personal attack, but it's not. It's usually they're just sharing their perspective. You don't always have to take you know, critique, you don't always have to act on it, but the simple act of listening and just like, you know, being able to see it from a different point of view can be immensely helpful, especially for things like portraits, right? Where there's like, obviously we're trying to get a likeness of that person. And so it's less open to interpretation than something like a character design, right? So thank you, Jack, for all of your feedback. I think it really helped. Some of those like little changes really made a big difference. So thanks guys so much for joining. I will see you guys on Saturday, where we're gonna go into a concept art Q&A with our teacher Sean. And so some of you guys will be meeting him for the first time. It's a very rare opportunity to talk to somebody who worked in the video game industry for about 20 years and counting. So if you want to become a concept artist, or you want to know what it takes to design characters and environments for video games, join in on Saturday, and we'll see you guys then. Can I post the link to the Discord group? Yeah, absolutely. Exclamation point Discord. There you go. So hopefully we'll see you on the Discord. No, nitpick away. It's all about nitpicking. I am notorious for nitpicking. So I think it's a good thing. I think if you can kind of see it as constructive, then you're going to get much more out of it than if you saw it as somebody trying to personally attack you. And I think it's like a matter of growing thick skin too, you know, because in the beginning it can definitely feel challenging to even post your artwork in fear of criticism, right? But I think that critique is one of the best things that an artist can receive, because it really helps you if you can just kind of, you know, put your ego away and, you know, just kind of see it, detach yourself from your artwork. You are not your artwork. You don't know how many pieces of artwork I've done that I don't even remember doing. Like so much stuff that I don't even remember. And so if I identified with my artwork, and like if I was so precious about every single thing, I probably wouldn't be here. I probably would have quit already. So if you want to be a successful artist, you want to be, you know, you want to have what it takes to be able to, you know, draw like the artist that you admire. The best thing you can do is just, you know, welcome critique. Doesn't matter who it's from. I've gotten critique from a 5-year-old who said, "Why are his ears too big?" in one of my paintings. And I was like, good point. He just, like, you know? And sometimes like, as an artist, there's reasons for doing things. So you don't always have to take the feedback. You know, you can choose to act on it or not act on it. But the simple act of just listening and welcoming feedback will make you a much better artist. All right, I'm gonna stop nitpicking now. All right, guys, I will see you for the next one. Bye-bye.